The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, and help me welcome Shannon Schoneman, who's running for the Board of Public Works. Is that right, Shannon?
Yes. Thank you, Carl.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the Board of Public Works and why you're running?
Absolutely. Board of Public Works oversees some very important city functions, such as wastewater and solid waste management, trash recycling, and as well as the roads, streets, paving, and also some other, really important ones like snow removal. Here in Nashua, snow removal is a pretty important one.
Well, I think their road program was very important this summer. It was all over the place.
I feel that they've done a beautiful job getting the roads paved. And fixing them up. I know it's an ongoing process, but it was long in coming, and they've done, I think, a beautiful job. So really important fundamental things to our city, and they oversee the very important, things where we live. It's where we live.
So the board's really an overseeing type of operation. It helps them with reviewing their programs, developing the budget, and is that what they do?
Yes, they oversee the projects that will go on in the city, including engineering projects and other things. They're a board of 4 commissioners, and also the mayor has a vote if there's a tie. So they provide that oversight to be sure that our taxpayer funding is spent appropriately for all the projects that are ongoing with all those services.
Okay. Well, what made you want to be one of the people that does that? Well,
for public works specifically, I feel like, as I said, public works is where we live. It's our parks and recreation, the roads that we drive on, seeing our trash off at the curb. These are things that are fundamental part of living in our city. And if you're going to be in participatory government, I think that this is a great place to start because it is very kind of brass tacks. Yeah. Right down to earth. When people need their sidewalks done, they need the roads to be paved so they can get to work. These are very fundamental things, and I like the details. I like making sure that things run smoothly. I like when things go well and are well organized and efficient. And I think that if you're going to run your city well, Public Works is a very good place to start.
Should be kind of interesting, I would think. You got a large variety of operations that are going on and different things. Locations, I think, were something that was high on the mayor's list at one time.
Yes.
And I don't know what they're doing now. Have you an idea what they're finishing, or any one project that you'd like to get involved in more than anything else?
I know that there are some important things coming up. Talking about interesting, we had a tour of the landfill of the recycling station and landfill over at Four Hills. And it really was fascinating. There's both science and engineering and a lot of down-to-earth details about running a landfill. Speaking to the gentleman who runs it, he was very excited to see what we're doing, that there are 2 new phases coming up with the landfill, and maybe you put your trash out to the curb and off it goes in the big green truck, and you don't think about what happens to it. But it's critical. If it wasn't there, if that service wasn't there,
definitely.
where would we be? And
is that going to continue with the recycling? I know they have some problems there.
yes, I don't know the details as to that. I know that everyone is dealing with the increased cost of recycling.
Right.
It has to do with some international things going on, and it's complicated, and I don't know all the details, but I do know that the people who run it are important, and how our money is being spent is very important. That it's not done frivolously, that it's not, that issues are dealt with practically and not bogged down in virtue signaling, doing things because it looks good, but because this is what's going to really work financially for our city.
They mention any options that they have when you went around talked to them about their problems?
Not as far as recycling. What I saw at the landfill was the development of the new phases. The third phase of where our solid waste is deposited at the landfill is about to come online in November. So we got to see that being prepared. And like I said, it's important. You don't realize how important until you think of what would happen if that trash didn't go away every Thursday morning. And the plans for the next, these plans stretch out for the next 40 years.
Wow.
Where our trash is going to go, what's going to happen to it after that. And I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Time of life, I guess, for the landfill there is 40 years?
I believe that the combined two phases of phase 3 and phase 4 do cover about 40 years into the future. And another interesting fact that I learned on that tour was that Nashua owns our landfill. It's our municipal landfill. We don't have to send our trash to somebody else and pay them and be beholden to them and their rules to take care of our own solid waste. So, yeah, there are a lot of interesting things coming up with facilities and with how facilities are going to be used, if they're going to be new facilities or old facilities are going to be refurbished. And so those are all in the future.
One time they were planning on building some kind of extension. I'm not sure what it was. That was right on the roadside there by where the landfill is. Do you know anything about that? I think they've rejected it now. They were going to build some repair or garage, I believe.
I don't know the specifics about that. But
I was just curious because I remember that being contentious when they bought the land out there, and then they were wondering what they were going to build because I didn't know if it was zoned properly. I thought it was zoned residential, and they were trying to change it. And it didn't work out for whatever reason. That was my recollection. That's been a couple of years, though, since they had that.
I believe there are several ongoing issues with facilities, things that have been purchased, what's going to happen to them next, and how they're going to house all the different departments. And those are all forthcoming.
They are located in a couple different places, and I guess split the personnel is a little bit hard in communication or getting together and all.
I think that there's some question as to whether it's better to centralize everything, or if that building an entirely new facility that's centralized for all of the workers for the entire city is going to be cost effective, or if it will be better in the long run to refurbish what we have already.
Well, since we're in a public works building, I guess we have to we have to worry about that too. The studio here is that they set up is nice, but it's in I imagine just a small part of the facility that they have down here by South High School. I hope they're not making any big changes soon.
I don't know that anything will be happening,
Yeah.
right away. But I know that after the election, some things are going to start to happen.
Well, they have to start a little bit because you're working on next year's budget, aren't you?
I would believe
As
so.
soon as you
yeah.
get in there, that's the big
Yeah.
thing, and it all comes out in the spring, and then the aldermen get it and see what
Yes.
they do with it.
Yes.
So that's going to be. Do you like budgeting? I mean, is that you said you liked the organization, looking at the details. You're going to have a lot of details in the budget.
I think that it surprises me how this is not my field of expertise, but when it comes to spending in the government, it seems as if we don't really look at a budget like we would do our own personal budget. You're making this much money. You can spend this much money in these areas. That's it. I think it's much more complicated than that. I think there are places where governments will tuck away funding here and there. That places where revenue are going in and out. Revenues coming in, expenses are going out. It's a little more plastic, a little more elastic than maybe our own personal budgets are, because generally we have only a few sources of income, and then we have,
And you only have one function,
relatively
is
simple.
your family.
That's right.
You're only part of a family. You're like the children that have
Yeah.
to do that work on a budget themselves. And
That's right.
the mayor is the one that has to balance all that. He's the one that's responsible for making everybody happy make
Yes.
everybody
And
equally
that's-
angry. I don't know which way he looks at it. But,
If you look at him as the father,
Yeah.
he's the one that has to make the hard decisions for
Right.
the good of the family.
Yeah.
Where you have to make some cuts. Maybe you take out your family vacation for that year because you have other obligations, and that's really his job. And as the Board of Public Works, that's our job too.
Oh, yeah.
Is to say, yes, we approve this kind of spending. It's a lot, but our house needs a new roof.
That's right.
We have to make some cuts here so that we can, plan for the future of our house, that will still have value. And that's what we want for our city.
That's right.
We frequent the parks in our area. I'm raising, Dave and I are raising our little son, and we go to the parks and we use them and the facilities there. And I want him to enjoy them, for his whole life.
Sure.
So we have to look at the future and see. I believe a good deal was spent on new wastewater facilities and equipment, and I believe it was quite a lot, but it needed to be done.
Well, I think your department, like the fire department, has a lot of equipment that's very high priced, and I think you people have some sort of reserve fund to take care of that. You put a little bit away every time, and then when it comes to a couple $100,000 piece of equipment, you have some money there.
Exactly. I feel like the paving that was done, which was fabulous, is bonded.
Right.
So we had to borrow. We've had to borrow to do it. I wonder why it's not in the budget and why it's not been set aside. I don't know the particulars. I'm not.
Well,
I've not been doing this for.
You might not have been there when it started. That was a controversial issue because that was bonding something for that usually is paid off each year, and but we had left it loose. We hadn't done what we should be doing every year. So it was the only way I think the mayor had of starting out this big campaign that he could do all the major work that has been done this year and probably next year for the balance. But I think he'd have a problem trying to get another bonding in the future. I think people want that in the budget, putting away something every year and sort of, just gradually building that up so that if you have some problem or some catastrophe, we have old water mains and they're always breaking someplace.
Yes.
And a major one could be really expensive repair. But that's something you'll learn as you go along, and out there you'll find out that there's some people that have the experience of being on before. But I think you have the perspective of a new person coming in, a person who wants to have a good city here, but also knows that you have to do it in an affordable way.
Yes.
So is there anything else that you'd like to say about why you're running?
Well, I feel why I'm running, why I'm running in general. When I was thinking about running, it came into my mind kind of clearly. There's an account in ancient Jewish history when the Jews were in exile for 70 years, and they were just allowed to return to their homeland. And they're working like mad to build their city wall. We won't make any too many references to city walls and protecting our borders, but that's what they were doing. They were putting all their effort into building their wall for the safety of their city. And they were a small band now, and that's what they were trying to do. But there was so much hostility from the previous government that they ended up, as the account says, building with one hand and holding their sword in the other. And if you've ever heard the expression "standing in the gap," it kind of comes from that account, that there were people who stopped working on their area and came and stood in the gap for the people who were trying to build. And I feel like, I feel strongly that there are sort of a remnant in our current administration of people who are faithful and careful and responsible. And because they're so few, they're trying to build and they're trying to fight these political battles at the same time, and they can't do it. It's too hard. So that's another reason. I think that the few who are really trying to do things responsibly for our city need allies. They need help. They need people to stand in the gap. And I can't say that it's always been my dream to be on the Board of Public Works, but I think that it's exceedingly important that we step in and help and be part of building our city and making it and keeping it beautiful without fighting, infighting and fighting a lot of unnecessary political battles. And it can be done. It can definitely be done.
Coming there with a perspective of trying to build camaraderie and efficiency and getting everybody in the same
consensus.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's how things get done,
Well,
I think.
That's how the Schoneman family works. Your husband was
Absolutely.
as an alderman at one time, and
Yes.
I think he's very active now in our panel shows and stuff like that.
Yes.
So we wish you the best. Hopefully you become the new member on the board and help them in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
your
Carl.
time.
Thank you for having me.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.